Shanti, Shanti. Sadasivasamarambam Sankaracharyamadhyamam Asmadacharyaparyantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudiraye. I think she was reading 8. I'll read from the beginning of the 8 then. The word visishyate in this verse does not mean simply superior. To say that karma yogi is far better does not mean that the mithyachara mentioned in the previous verse is good. The two are completely different. One person is sitting, dwelling on things, being lazy, and the other person is active and has a karma yoga attitude. Because the karma yogi accomplishes everything, he or she is far superior to the other person who is simply a hypocrite, not merely superior. There is no comparison at all. The karma yogi accomplishes the ultimate purushartha, moksha, but the hypocrite achieves nothing even in a relative sense. So we saw that in 7th verse, I think. Yeah, that's where she was reading about laziness and idleness and all that. Okay. Mhm. That verse is yes, with indriyani manasa nyam niyamya niyamyarabadirjuna कर्मेन्द्रियैः yogam योगमासक्तः स कर्मेन्द्रियैः कर्मयोगम् असक्तः स विशिष्यते.
यस्त्विन्द्रियाणि मनसा नियम्यारभतेऽर्जुन कर्मेन्द्रियैः कर्मयोगम् असक्तः स विशिष्यते.
Thank you. Should I read this one, Dr. Brahmara, or should just move on to the number 8? I think she did
Yeah,
read this
yeah, you
whole
can
thing.
read this first and then go.
Yeah, because this verse kind of, yeah, I don't know, it did the Manana on this one. Whereas, okay, Arjuna, oh Arjuna, yaha, one who, two, whereas Indriyani, sense organs, Manasa, with the mind, Niyamya, Niyamya, controlling. Sorry, I thought it was Niyata. Sorry, Niyamya, controlling, Asaktaha, unattached, Karmendriyaha, Karmendriyahi, with the organs of action, Karma Yogam, the yoga of action, Arabate, Rabate takes to Saha, that one, Visishyate is far superior. Arjuna Yaha tu Indriyani Manasa Niyamya Asaktaha Karmendriyahi Karmayogam Arabte Saha Visishyate. Whereas, O Arjuna, the one who, controlling the sense organs with the mind, is unattached and takes to the yoga of action, that is, action performed with the yoga buddhi, with the organs of action, is far superior. A person who can control his or her sense pursuits has discrimination, viveka. The control is through the mind only. The word manasa, through the mind, implies viveka. Right. The word manasa, through the mind implies viveka, manas being another word for buddhi, intellect. To control one's organs of action and sense pursuits, in other words, having mastery over them, is to direct them at will. Such a person, not attached to karma pala, the results of action, begins arabate, takes to a life of karma yoga, meaning that the person performs karma as a yoga, as a sadhana, a means. You cannot do karma yoga. You can only have it because karma yoga is strictly an attitude with reference to action and its result. The person described by Krishna in this verse is one who begins doing karma with the organs of action, that is, the speaking, walking, and whatever is to be done with the proper attitude. So I'll read the last line. The person described by Krishna in this verse is one who begins doing karma with organs of action, speaking, walking, and whatever is to be done with the proper attitude. Actions to be done may be Vaidika karmas, scripturally enjoined rituals, or Laukika karmas consisting of all other activities. When a person does Vaidika karma or Laukika karma with the Karma Yoga attitude, he or she does not do it to fulfill his or her ragadveshas, but to neutralize them. In other words, to purify the mind for gaining the knowledge that is moksha. Generally, people do Vaidika karma, rituals, prayers, and so on in order to gain securities and pleasures. This is nothing but fulfilling their ragas and dveshas. First, you pray and then you present the Lord with your petition. There is nothing wrong with this, but you should know that it is only for fulfilling raga dveshas. Praying to the Lord for the cure of a disease or a solution to a problem is definitely appropriate. If you have done if you have done everything you can do and it is not enough, why not invoke the Lord also? What should be understood here what should be understood here, though, is that all prayers, even those enjoined by the Veda, can be for your securities and pleasures, either here or in the hereafter. So, either here or in the hereafter. Or they can go, there can be, sorry, or they can be a yoga, a means for self purification and self knowledge, which is moksha. Karmas, even if performed according to dharma, is for the fulfillment of one's ragadveshas alone, that is, for the sake of achievements in the form of securities and pleasures. Such karmas are called kamya karmas, and the person who does the karma is called a karmi or karmata. Sorry. Uh, in other words, one who is attached to the results of action. So I'll read this paragraph one more time. Karmas, even if performed according to dharma, is for the fulfillment of one's ragadveshas alone. That is for the sake of achievements in the form of securities and pleasures. Such karmas are called kamya karmas. And the person who does the karma is called a karmi or karmata. In other words, one who is attached to the results of action. So one who is attached to the result of action is called karmi or karmata. Yeah, the person who is unattached is one who, rather than doing kamya karma, is doing karma for the sake of preparing the mind for knowledge. For such a person, a prayer or any other type of Vaidika karma is for the very joy of praying and also for the for purification of the mind, antakarana shuddhi. Being for certain desired ends, that is antakarana shuddhi and moksha, these karmas also come under the category of kamya karma. But since the purpose of performing them is antakarana shuddhi, they are not considered to be impelled by ragadveshas. This must be understood. So clearly explained the earlier what is karma, karmi and karmata or karmata, and the difference between that person and the other person who is doing the kamya karma or vaidikya karma for the sake of purification of the mind, but doing it unattached and with that karma yoga attitude. So yeah, that karma is different from the previous one. It's not impelled by ragadveshas, the later one. When you're doing it for antakarna shuddhi, that is not impelled by ragadveshas. So going on to, but karma done for any other reason is a bhoga sadhana. So now we are, one is kartrutva bhavana and this is the bhoga sadhana. But karma done for any other reason is a bhoga sadhana, a means for enjoying security and pleasure. Even if it is a prayer or ritual enjoined by the Veda. A man may perform an elaborate ritual for the sake of wealth, progeny, or for heaven, in which he spends a lot of money. But all these are for enjoyment alone, even though the person does not know who is enjoying what. So that's Bhoga Sadhana. So we are doing the karma for reason for enjoying the security and pleasure. When you say you enjoy an object, when you say you enjoy an object, you do seem to be enjoying it. In time, however, you find that the object has enjoyed you because you have grown older. The objects of enjoyment have taken away your liver, kidneys, everything. You find yourself the loser because you do not know who is the enjoyer and who is the enjoyed. During the early years of your life, your body was growing. You became taller and stronger. You grew by eating. But as an adult, the emphasis shifted. Previously, you were eating and you were growing. But now, in spite of eating, you are declining. Therefore, who is eating now? You are no longer eating the food. The food is eating you. The food itself has become the eater because, in spite of eating, you are declining. In this way, the eater can become the eaten. Therefore, we do not know which is the enjoyer and which is the enjoyed. So, here is that Bhoga sadhana, right? How they gave this example of when you're doing a karma which is helpful to you, but after some time it becomes opposite, meaning it's instead of you are an enjoyer, whatever the karma that you're doing, that karma becomes the enjoyer. You become enjoyed. Yes. And they gave great example of this food, what it can do to you. So for in summary, we talked about trying to describe this karma, doing with karma yoga attitude, and the otherwise. One is that for the kartrutva karma in plus result of action, then the bhoga sadhana. Action as prayer. If when performing Vaidika karmas, action as prayer. If when performing Vaidika karmas, a person thinks of himself or herself as an enjoyer, he or she is referred to as a palasakta. Palasakta. Mm. So, if when performing Vaidika karmas, a person thinks of himself or herself as an enjoyer, he or she is referred to as a palasakta. One who is attached to the results of action. One who is attached to the result of action is called palasakta. It is the same for Laukika karma as well. So one is the Vaidika karma and the second one is the Laukika karma. It is the same for Laukika karma as well. In fact, for a karma yogi, they are really sorry, let me kind of center this. There is no such thing for karma yogi. There is no such thing as a Laukika karma. The word is merely a verbal expression for an action that is not Vedic ritual, because for a yogi, all action is nothing but prayer to Ishvara. Yeah, this is very important, this line. The word is merely a verbal expression for an action that is not a Vedic ritual, because for a yogi, all action is nothing but prayer to Ishvara, the Lord, as our analysis reveals. Sorry. Ah, hmm. The order that is here in the creation is nothing but Ishvara. The order that is here in the creation is nothing but Ishvara. Once you recognize this fact, any action you perform which is in keeping with Ishvara becomes a prayer. Therefore, there is nothing that is Laukika or Vaidika. The words being used only to distinguish non ritualistic actions from ritualistic actions. So I'm going to go back, read this last few lines. The word is merely a verbal expression for an action that is not a Vedic ritual, because for a yogi, all action is nothing but a prayer to Ishvara, the Lord, as our analysis reveals. The order that is here in the creation, the order that is here in the creation is nothing but Ishvara. Once you recognize this fact, any action you perform which is in keeping with Ishvara becomes a prayer. Therefore, there is nothing that is Laukika or Vaidika, the words being used only to distinguish non ritualistic actions from ritualistic actions. Dr. Brahmara, maybe you can explain these two sentences. I didn't get it. The order that is here in the creation is nothing but Ishvara. I understand everything is Brahman. I think they're probably mentioning is Brahman. Then she recognized this fact. Okay. Since any action that is in keeping with Dharma or Ishvara, okay, since any action that is in keeping with Dharma or Ishvara becomes a form of prayer, action performed by one who is not attached to the results of action is not considered to be impelled by one's raga dveshas.
See, for a karma yogi, there is no distinction between Laukika and Vaidika karma.
Right.
Basically, any action is considered um, the same, whether it's Laukika or Vaidika, he
Mm.
does it with that attitude. That is why there is no distinction. It is
Right. The question I had was like this line here. I know we are the yogi. All action is nothing but prayer to Ishvara, the Lord, as our analysis reveals. So we submit everything to the Ishvara, like prayer to the Ishvara. The order that is here in the creation is nothing but Ishvara.
yeah. So the whole creation is nothing. It is an offshoot of Ishvara, isn't it?
Right. So once you recognize this fact, any action you perform which is in keeping with Ishvara becomes a prayer.
It's like that shloka which says, um, Swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. So yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam. So Brahman is pervading in and through creation.
Mm,
So no matter what you do, no, it's not no matter what you do. So you, by doing your swakarma, it is like you're worshipping him.
mm. Okay,
And
so
the
what
same
is to
thing,
be done is to be done that with the karma yogic attitude and the prayer to Ishvara. That attitude itself, that you are uh, as a prayer to Ishvara, right?
Because every action is a prayerful action, right?
Mm.
Done with the yajna bhava.
When
So
you,
therefore, every
mm,
action becomes
that's
like
Swakarma,
a
right?
prayer.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm. Okay, which is in keeping with Ishvara. That's why it says is keeping with Ishvara becomes a prayer. So that's what I was trying to understand, like here. So that's okay. That makes sense. Since any action that is in keeping with Dharma or Ishvara. See, in the earlier we read, even if you're keeping with Dharma, you are doing it for Raga Dvesha, then it becomes not Karma Yoga. So, since any action that is in keeping with Dharma or Ishvara becomes a form of prayer, so the Ishvara is included here, or Ishvara becomes a prayer, form of prayer, action performed by one who is not attached to the results of action is not considered to be impelled by one's raga dveshas. The expression being unattached to the results of one's action. So, being unattached to the results of one's actions is the source of much confusion because no one performs action without expecting results. The word asakta, one who is unattached, has to be understood as a technical word, which means one whose actions, whether Vaidika or Laukika, are not based purely on ragadveshas. Raga is always in terms of something desirable that is away from you, and Vesha is in terms of something you want to avoid or get rid of. Actions are not based on Raga Dveshas are considered to be in keeping with Dharma and are meant for Antakarna Shuddhi. So, the actions are not based on Raga Dveshas are considered to be in keeping with Dharma and are meant for Antakarna Shuddhi. So, whether it's Vaidika karma or Laukika karma, whichever one it is, doesn't matter. You do it with that attitude without expecting the results of action or unattached to the result of action, that not purely based on raga dveshas. That's what you're talking about the swakarma point. So we have to remember that we have to do what we have to do, not expect other people to do for us. Thus, in the verse, asakta refers to a person who enjoys a certain control. So, asakta refers to a person who enjoys a certain control. Otherwise, one's raga dveshas alone will decide what one should do. Whatever fancies happen along, the person will simply join them and do whatever comes to mind. Convenience instead of what is right becomes the rule here, though the action may be against dharma. The karma yogi, on the other hand, has a certain control over his or her organs of action and sense organs. We use the word certain here because even though the person is a karma yogi, he or she is still an ajnani. Anya, Anyani, right? So ignorance, right? He or she is still an ajna, the one who is ignorant with reference to the self. So we use the word, sorry, I'll repeat this line. We use the word certain here because even though the person is a karma yogi, he or she is still an ajna, the one who is ignorant with reference to the self. Thus, even though this person may have some omissions and commissions, there is always a degree of control. Being not impelled by karma pala alone, interested only in antakarna shuddhi and moksha, the karma yogi does what has to be done. The idea conveyed here is that technically purification of the mind is a result of one's actions. So, technically the purification of the mind is the result of one's actions, but purification of the mind is not born out of ragadvesha based action. It is not referred to as a karma pala in the usual sense. Mm. When you say you want to gain moksha, you mean that you want to know Atma, which means you want to know Ishvara. How nicely put it. Antakarna Shuddhi is for understanding Ishvara. So, when you say you want to gain moksha, you mean that you want to know Atma, which means you want to know Ishvara. Antakarna Shuddhi is for understanding Ishvara. So, we read about actions of the prayer, what it means. Oh, sorry. Knowledge of the Lord is knowledge of the Lord is knowledge of oneself. Whether we use the word knowing, gaining, reaching, or whatever, what is meant is knowledge of Ishvara, which is not separate from knowledge of the self. So, knowledge of the Ishvara, which is not separate from the knowledge of the self. Between Jiva, the individual, and Ishvara, the Lord, there is identity, which is expressed as an equation. You are that, Tattvamasi. Okay, between the individual Jiva and the Ishvara, the Lord, there is identity which is expressed as an equation. You are that, Tattvamasi. that Tat refers to Ishvara, who is the cause of the world. Tat refers to Ishvara, to who is the cause of the world. And that Ishvara, you are Tvamasi. Okay, Ishvara is the cause of the world, and that is you are, that Ishvara you are. That Ishvara you are. Tvamasi. This equation naturally implies self knowledge and also Ishvara knowledge. In this context, karma is performed for antakarna shuddhi so that the knowledge of Ishvara can be gained, not for getting something out of Ishvara. Getting something out of Ishvara implies raga dveshas, whereas here we want to know what he is. We want to have the vision of Ishvara, which is something entirely different. Therefore, karma becomes yoga. Krishna described one who begins this yoga as far superior. Krishna described one who begins this yoga as far superior, to whom, in his commentary, Shankara refers back to the person mentioned in the previous verse, the one who outwardly performs no action but dwells inwardly upon all the sense objects that have been given up. Such a person can also be called lazy. Okay, this is a part of the lazy part. So, one who's outwardly perform no action, but inwardly thinking about dwells on all the sense objects that have been given up. Such a person can also be called lazy. Laziness and idleness are not the same thing. A lazy person is the one who does nothing outwardly but does everything mentally. He or she even writes letters mentally and then becomes annoyed when there is no reply. Whereas an idle person is one who is always busy without ever accomplishing anything. He or she creates all sorts of messes and then clears them up. Such a person has no time for anything and accomplishes nothing. In a planetarium in Hawaii, there is a coin operated machine designed to be as busy as an idle person, where every form of mechanism can be seen in this machine: moving pistons, revolving wheels, hammering devices, and so on. Everything that is mechanically possible is going on there, but nothing is ever produced. Aside from being a waste of energy and genius, this machine is an excellent satire on how people are busy accomplishing nothing. Well, the word visishyate in this verse does not mean simply superior. To say that karma yogi is far better does not mean that the mithyachara mentioned in the previous verse is good. The two are completely different. One person is sitting, dwelling on things, being lazy, and the other person is active and has a karma yoga attitude. Because the karma yogi accomplishes everything, he or she is far superior to the other person who is simply a hypocrite, not merely superior. There is no comparison at all. The karma yogi accomplishes the ultimate purushartha, moksha, but the hypocrite achieves nothing, even in a relative sense. It's so beautiful. This being so, Krishna said, the next verse. So we almost spent 40 minutes on this verse. So you want anything to be repeated here, or maybe we can do a little bit of Manana here? Tattvamasi, how nicely they brought that equation here. Knowledge of the Lord is knowledge of oneself. Tattvamasi. So, So in the first part of the sloka is mentioned about how um, how one have control over the sense organs. That person is called uh, Viveki, right? The Viveki here, Manas again also used for Buddhi is mentioned. So mind, so somebody is able to control their sense organs or the organs of action at will in their mind is a Viveki. So one person who has the control over that, why do we have to have control over our sense organs and organs of action? Is because of that give up this raga dveshas, right? So if we don't have control, what happens? We just do whatever we want, the convenience, like whatever the raga, okay, what convenient. So we do that. And when you have control over those things, that means that action is difficult to do. But even that difficult when we keep doing it, that helps to, and you do it with that um, attitude or prayer to the Lord Ishvara, that helps to the purification of the mind. So when we, so that is being explained very well in this sloka again and again. So one who performs that karma, they give you the difference also. Who is karmi, karmata, who does that action based on their ragadveshas. Even with dharma, they do the action, but because of the ragadvesha and they are attached to the result of action. Whereas these people are not attached to the result of action and prayer to the Lord. And they do what they are supposed to do, not impelled by these ragadveshas. That becomes karma yogi. Then they explained about bhoga sadhana. Bhoga sadhana is like one, also you're doing that action or for the security or pleasure, for your own enjoyment. The example given there was about the food. The food is eaten when you're young, get to grow tall and big and whatever, healthy. But then as after becoming an adult, you keep eating whatever we like based on our raga dveshas, then it becomes a problem. It says eaten by, it become the food eaten by you, but then the food takes over. So it's really differentiate the part of the problem why we should do this this every action that we are performing with that control, with the mind control, and that with the viveka and understanding Ishvara. This in the karma yoga, as we are doing karma yoga, we really want to have good understanding of Ishvara. Ishvara is who created us and everything else in the world or in the Jagat.
There was one sentence, knowing
Mm.
Ishvara is knowing yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by knowing yourself, uh, knowing Ishvara, knowing yourself. Is that what you're saying, Simi? Or I don't know who is
Sarla,
talking.
Sarla.
Sarala, sorry.
I
Yeah.
didn't rename that. Sorry.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, can you read little bit around that paragraph?
Uh, which one is that? She said, Ishvara,
Knowing
i-
Ishvara is knowing
knowing
yourself.
yourself, right? Okay.
Hmm.
Knowledge of the Lord is knowledge of oneself. Whether we use knowing, gaining, reaching, or whatever, what is meant is knowledge of Ishvara, which is not separate from the knowledge of the self. So, what is meant here? Knowledge of Ishvara, which is not separate from knowledge of the self. How between Jiva, the individual, and Ishvara, the Lord, there is identity, which is expressed as an equation, you are that, Tattvamasi. Okay, that's the equation, Tattvamasi. That is the Tat, right? Tat means that. Yeah, refers to Ishvara, who is the cause of the world. That Ishvara you are. So here they say Ishvara who is the cause of the world. That Ishvara is you. You know that Ishvara you are. That's a Tvamasi. This equation naturally implies self-knowledge and also Ishvara knowledge. You see that equation naturally implies self-knowledge and also Ishvara knowledge. There were one line I read somewhere, very nicely talked about this. One second, I'll show you this paragraph, small paragraph here. When you say you want to gain moksha, you mean that you want to know Atma. Okay, when you want to gain moksha, meaning what you mean by you want to gain moksha? You mean that you want to know Atma, which means you want to know Ishvara. So you see that how the connection is. You want to know Atma, which means you want to know Ishvara. Antakarna Shuddhi is for understanding Ishvara. So this is that like a circle kind of thing. You know, you want to see the moksha, that means you want to know the Atma. If you want to know Atma, which means you want to know the Ishvara, the Antakarna Shuddhi is for the whole reason you have to have the mind clear is for understanding this Ishvara. So it's like a circle. Is that helpful to you, Sharla ji?
Yes, please continue.
Okay. So that the knowledge of Ishvara can be gained for not for getting something out of Ishvara. Getting something out of Ishvara implies raga dveshas. So if we want to have a result of action, like you do a prayer and then you put a petition that I want to pass my exam, that is that you imply the raga dveshas, right? So whereas here we want to know what he is. So we want to know who Ishvara is. So we want to have the vision of Ishvara, which is something entirely different. Therefore, karma becomes yoga. So when you do that karma yoga, then it becomes you you try to understand who Ishvara is. And then so he says, who the Krishna described one who begins this yoga, the karma yoga, is for as for superior, to whom, that means the person who is doing karma yoga is superior for people who want to know the moksha, to want to attain moksha, meaning to understand the self knowledge and understand Ishvara, right? But then commentary, they talked about I don't know the previous words what it said, I forgot. He talking about the lazy and idle persons who has been wanting to have control over things outwardly, but now in the mind they keep thinking about the sense objects. Same way, the ideal person who's uh, doing feel like they are very busy all the time, but they are not accomplishing anything. So the word vishishyate,
What was the word? Couldn't hear.
vishishyate, that is superior. Yes, few more minutes. So please share your.
Jai Gurudev.
Here, at least this sloka feels like Lord Krishna trying to make answer the Arjuna's question about which one is better. Of course, he is talking about who. Everything is action only, but then how karma yoga is superior to other things. With karma yoga, how you can achieve moksha also. It also applies to us because we are not going to become sannyasi, and how I think previous 1 or 2 verses ago we read so much about sannyasa, right? How difficult it is. But
I think here how Karma Yogi is different because he is performing the karma for his chitta shuddhi. His end expectation is not any materialistic gain as such. And so his actions and the person who is just sitting and talking and not performing any action, these are the totally two different domains. Is that so, Maharaji?
When Chitta Shuddhi is there, the Ragadvesha will go, and with the means that when there is no Ragadvesha, because of the wisdom, we can achieve the Purushartha, that is moksha.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. But that's what Chitta Shuddhi, uh, the karma is performed, actions are performed,
Mhm.
and you cannot compare it with a person who is acting
Right.
or like, uh,
Mithyachara means who is thinking, thinking, and sitting only idle, and he cannot achieve anything, but the Karma Yogi can achieve.
yes, yes, perfecto. This distinction is very important. Many people they ask, no, why Gurudev ask us to become teacher, or why Gurudev is asking us to do the VTP and this thing, that thing, because he doesn't want anything from us. But in the process, our chitta shuddhi happens. Otherwise, we are bound to get trapped into raga dvesha. So he has created that platform to dissolve your raga dvesha and become a karma yogi. Am I right, Sarlaji?
Yes. Actually, our basic course, total cleansing. If you
Yes, 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 yes.
means when we are conducting programs, so while conducting so much things come up, no? It's so beautiful thing. कभी कभी गुरुदेव कहते हैं ना कि तुम छोड़ते क्या हो, तुमने कुछ किया ही नहीं तो छोड़ना क्या है। छोड़ता वो है जो जिसने कुछ कर चुके हैं, फिर वो विरक्त हो सकता है, लेकिन तुमने कुछ पाया ही नहीं तो छोड़ने जैसा कुछ है ही नहीं।
बिल्कुल।
मीन्स वो सरेंडर पॉइंट, सरेंडर जो कहते हैं कि आई विल सरेंडर, सो व्हाट इज देयर टू सरेंडर, व्हाट इज योर्स अगेन, इट्स सच अ ब्यूटीफुल नॉलेज।
Initially, all these words
We're
were
pretty
just
close to the
words.
time.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
This being so, Krishna said. Next verse is Niyatam Kuru Karma Tvam Karmanya Karmana. Sorry, here, 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 Karmana Sariryatrapi Chate. Sorry, Sariryatrapi Ya Sariryatrapi Chate Na Prasidyet Karmana. Tvam, you, niyatam, what is to be done, karma, action, kuru, do, he, because akarmanaga, when compared to inaction, akarmanaga, karma, action, yayahe, yayaha, yayaha, superior, yayaha, superior, akarmanaga, due to inaction, they, your, sarira, sarira yatra, maintenance of the body, Sarira Yatra, maintenance of the body. Good use of language here. Sarira Yatra, maintenance of the body. Api, even. Cha, and. Na prasidhyat. Na prasidhyat would become impossible. Na prasidhyat would become impossible. Tvam niyatam karma Kuru hi akarmanaha. Karma jayayaha. Akarmanaha te sarira yatra api cha na prasidyat. Do action that is to be done because action is superior to inaction, and due to inaction even the maintenance of your body would not become impossible. Okay, so we should follow, do this tomorrow. Verse number 8. I'll close here. If no one has anything to say, Dr. Brahmara did
Can you
give a
read that meaning again?
summary of the same
Meaning.
sloka that I read yesterday itself, but reading it again really helps.
Can you read that meaning
Thank you
again?
so much for letting me read today. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Jai Gurudev. Dr. Brahmara, you want to screen the video of this dhyanam?
Meditation is accepting this moment, living every moment totally with depth. Let us keep our spine erect and body relaxed and eyes closed. Relax your shoulders. Keep a big smile on your face. You're sitting like the statue of Buddha, very serene and with a serene smile on your face. Relax your body. Let's take a deep breath in and breathe out. Become aware of your chest region, throat and chest region. If you notice some tension in the body, just let it be. Except those parts of the body where you feel a tension, the other parts are in comfort. Other parts are at peace. Become aware of that also. There are many good things about you and inside of you. Acknowledge them. They will never leave you. And the negative aspect you may see in you is never going to stay with you forever. They are all guests for some time. Let them be. Sit with the total acceptance of yourself the way you are at this very moment. Total acceptance of what is now here. Lead us to deeper meditation. Let go of all the efforts. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let go of all your effort and be in this emptiness. And slowly and gradually become aware of body and surroundings. And you may gently open your eyes.
Thank you, Jai Gurudev.